Jasara Part 2, seized assets. What is that value? The executive order that President Trump signed back in December 21st, 2017, the executive order blocking of properties of persons involved in serious human rights abuse or corruption. That was a big one, and that was signed right around the holidays when Congress was closed. It was a really brilliant one. So Trump executive order of seizing assets and blocking property of persons involved in serious human rights abuse. Now this is huge. Weinstein's home, for an example, Weinstein's home is valued at 16 million. Epstein's mansions in the hundreds of millions. The Nixon, Clara Bronfman, she's the heir to the Seagram's fortune. You can only imagine the staggering amount of wealth she had. The Clintons, the Soros, the Rothschilds' fortunes. I can go on, but you kind of get the point. Now, if we add all of this up, I'm just kind of giving you some basic information. It's not gospel, but I'm giving you some basics. Some of the stuff are factual, and I'll let you know which numbers are. So if we add all of it up, it exceeds the trillions, and more than likely it is in the quadrillions. Now let's add the debt. The national debt is 24 trillion. I rounded that up. The consumer debt is 13.86 trillion. That is as of this month. The total USA debt is 37.86 million. That would be these two combined. Now, so if you click on this post right here, it will take you to the article of the consumer debt and what does it involve. So consumer debt is a collection of your debt from mortgages, auto loans, student loans, and credit card debts. If we round all of the USA's national and consumer debt up, it's going to be 38 trillion. Now let's just say that we have all the gold that the cabal tried to hide and the quadrillions seized assets. So please do not ask anyone from MSNBC to count because they can't. They had a horrible clip last week about math, and it was really bad. Okay, so let's go here. Let's say that I'm just being conservative. Let's just say that there is $1 quadrillion that has been seized or that we have in gold combined. That's 15 zeros, all right? Then you subtract the 38 trillion that we have in our national consumer debt, that's rounded up. That leaves us with the remaining balance of $962 trillion that's remaining. That's with a 9 and a 100 and a 60 and a 2 and a $1 trillion. Now, okay, so let's add up how many U.S. citizens over the age of 18. There's over 209 million citizens divided into the remaining balance, which is the 962 trillion. It comes up to about 4.6 million. That's rounded. Now, I rounded that down. Again, trying to be conservative. So imagine, if you will, all your debts are cleared, and then you have an additional monies coming to you in the government coffers because it's spreading the wealth. Now, again, this is not gospel, but I'm giving you an idea of how corrupt the government stole our wealth. So in essence, Nasara and Jasara. Nasara is national and Jasara is global. Wipes our debts clean. And then there's plenty remaining in the government coffers to spread the wealth. This is an staggering amount of wealth to distribute, and knowing how Trump knows balance sheets and how he turned $1 million that his father gave him and turned that into billions. He is working on this for us, the same concept. He is a self-made billionaire. He wants us to be in the same boat. He may have lost some billionaire quote-unquote friends once he became president, but he gained 70 million non-billionaire ones that are very wealthy inside because of our love for God and our passion for the truth. And that means more to him than the former shallow billionaires that meant to him. So why Trump? Because he is not from the established government. This is his first political role and military role. And he's doing awesome. He's already been there and done that in the corporate world. He knows that we have the power to turn our country into a sound, patriotic one with peace and harmony, and I'm going to include wealth. So there's going to be no Bernie bros, Antifa, haters. Heck, even the liberal basement dwellers may even make a turn. If President Trump is much like the king on the chessboard, then he knows the importance of all the players to keep himself and the army protected. We are his players. We are the pawns, we're the rooks, we're the bishops, we're the knights, and the queen. So this is why the corrupt government is so paranoid. When this all, Nasara Jasara, comes to fruition, first, they know they have no power. Heck, Many know that they're going to prison or having executions. Then when it comes time, there will not be an election, for it will be a constitutional president as our commander-in-chief. Now that is from information that I read. All right, I'm just sharing that with you. They want a constitutional president, not a de facto one or an elected one. The global reset, now he is talking about an election this year, but if you notice, he's not saying, and he's not really hammering, go out there and vote on November 3rd like he did 4 years ago when he was hammering about voting on November 8th in 2016. The global reset changes our entire government structure as well. Nasara must happen within 120 days of an election. And you know when that is. It's July 6, 2020. Now, for QAnon followers, that is 17 weeks before the election date. For non-Q followers, Q is the 17th letter in the alphabet. What a coincidence. So, if you were to circle the wagon, does Q also stand for quadrillions? Now, here's a few references that I wanted to share with you. This one here is by an article by change.org. And as you know, change.org, they're a conservative organization. Now, I'm not going to talk about, signed by JFK 2 weeks before he was killed, that it was a fact sheet on Jassara and Nasara. I don't have that information. I'm just going to share what Q has shared, or change.org has shared. So it kind of goes through what I shared with you yesterday. It abolishes the income tax, abolishes the IRS, creates a 17% flat tax rate. Now that's still lower than your income tax, your federal income tax, and it's definitely lower than your state income tax. But it creates a 17% flat rate. Now I also read in another article it was 14%. So I'm going to use 17% again, being conservative. And it's in other words, food and medicine will not be taxed, nor will used items such as old homes. It increases benefits to senior citizens, which I read it's about $5,000 a month. Returns constitutional law to all of our courts and legal matters. Reinstates the original title of nobility amendment. And again, this is more of a modern day way of describing the Nasara. Establishes the new presidential and congressional elections within 120 days of Jassara's announcement. So that's what I'm not familiar with. There is going to be a type of an election, but I don't think it's going to be the type of elections that you and I are used to. The interim government will cancel all national emergencies and return us back to constitutional law. And then most of the others, I already talked about yesterday, but you can go ahead and click on that article and read through it yourself. And at Proud America 4, she apparently listened to my broadcast. Thank you so much, Sandy. She posted this document here. It's awesome. It's like a little booklet on Nasara and Jassara. So thank you very much, Sandy, for posting that. You can click on that. It will take her to her tweet, which takes you to that thread. Now let's look into a Trump tweet back in January 29th, 2019, last year. A year and almost 2 months ago. President Trump has working on this entire Nasara plan since he took office. This is his tweet. Our economy right now is the gold standard throughout the world. At Ingram Angle, so true and not even close. So he's referring to a report that she had done. Now, that is huge because he's already talking about we have the gold and it's the gold standard. And he is always very accurate. He is meticulous about what he tweets, even when he purposely makes mistakes. So he is already saying it's the gold standard throughout the world. And we, many other patriots and anons have been doing podcasts on the central bank going down, Rothschilds getting out of the central bank. Basically, it all boils down to the seized assets. They're all broke. So they have no more money. And that is another thing worldwide. That's another thing I'll have to get into on a different podcast because that's a huge story in itself. But let me go ahead and kind of take you through what is happening or what has happened recently about this whole reset. In Canada, did you know Chase canceled all Chase credit card debts last year? This is an article posted in August of last year, and this is also posted by USA Today. Chase Bank forgives all credit card debt for Canadian consumers. Amazing. You can click on that article. You can even do a Google search and find a lot of articles on this. Now here's a personal story from Diane Gray, who's a patriot that I followed and I gave a shout out to yesterday. So she's kind of getting involved in this conversation that we had about the Jassara and Nasara that I posted yesterday. So she said, I saw a post about this a year ago. I researched it a bit and told Trump I'm praying for that. So I did. My home was fully paid off in July of last year. I started digging, but I knew I have a friend who said this was Nasara. When your home is bought out, you owe no payments. So I stopped paying my payments. I had lost my income. Her husband was really sick. We are grown up enough to know that we need to scale back. So I leaped in faith. I quit paying. That was in July. It's been 8 months now, and my home is still off the market, and credit shows paid to a zero balance. So that is amazing.
Bumping. Do you hear?
Okay, so is this all making sense? The big banks failed us. They stole from us. They concocted the mortgage-backed security Ponzi scheme to cripple us financially. That was back in 2006, 2007. How many of us had to go through a major restart in our lives dating back from 2007? Some are still trying to catch up. Now the big banks are getting caught with their crimes. Did you know, last year, the government charged 3 people at JP Morgan, their precious metals division, for price fixing and racketeering. There's this gentleman named Isaac who posted, can't wait until this bomb drops, and it's about the article about JP Morgan's metals desk was a criminal enterprise. 3 people got prosecuted. And then suddenly, after this, though, I'm sure this has kind of wound down a little bit, this news. The CEO of JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, the Wall Street, as they call him, darling, undergoes emergency heart surgery. Now, I didn't know he had heart problems, and CEOs of Diamond Statue do not usually announce critical information like this because it can affect their stock price. Well, maybe he will be one of Weinstein's darlings soon. Who knows? This is a big news right here. So Steve Lundgren at Love for the Game had posted this article last week. Now, Hawks, he sent me a DM. I got his approval to share this. This is from his bank, and it's from Citi. And it's saying, if you've been impacted by COVID-19 and need our support, we're here to help. We have dedicated assistance available 24/7. You can go ahead and read through this. It's kind of really, I mean, I'm sitting there thinking, well, where the heck were they when H1N1 came out? So the banks, they suddenly, all of a sudden, they care about us and our health. It doesn't make any sense. So they didn't offer this kind of support with Obama's H1N1 flu. Nor even during the flu season, which kills more people than this COVID. So in lieu of admitting that they've all burned us, they are now opting to give us care and comfort. I call malarkey in all of this. They're pure evil and a big part of the price manipulation and all of their wealth while we were struggling. Now this is really interesting. I'm going to kind of share this with you. Resignation of executives. Resignation of top executives are on the rise. I am going to click on this link. And it takes you to resignation.info or resignation.info//list. If you take a look at here, it gives you kind of updated information, and it gives you worldwide resignations. So it gives you their title, their statute, Australia, South Africa. Some of them will have descriptions in here about why they were replaced or why they resigned. So it tells you here, and then we keep scrolling down. You've got Central Bank Reserve, a Bank of Zimbabwe. You've got a director that resigned. In here, we also have somebody from Wells Fargo. She resigned. She was a board director. So you've got a lot of crooks in here, but this one I found interesting. He's a cardinal. He resigned just last week, Cardinal of France. He submitted his resignation to Pope France. It was Pope France didn't want to accept it, and now he is convicted of failing to report cases of sexual abuse of minors by a priest in his diocese and to legal authorities. It is happening, and it's happening in a big way. Look at all these dates. A lot of them happened last week. Why in the world would all of these CEOs of all of these top Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies, why would they all of a sudden start to just ditch and leave? To me, it's mind-boggling because it's the best economy that we have ever had. So why would they leave when the economy is doing great? Why would a cardinal tender his resignation and the Pope refuse it? And last week, why would a Disney CEO resign? And not only Disney, MasterCard, and a co-CEO for Salesforce. They all resigned within 24 hours of each other, and that happened in February 27, 2020. You can click on that. It takes you to that article. We all knew about the corruption from the dirty cops and dirty DC and swamp rats, but now we are also learning about the corruption of executives that we do business with or we consume their products. these resignations and departures are massive. These are the very people that they're so eloquently spoken, wear nice suits or clothes, drive fancy cars, yet they are hurting innocent children as their personal interest, which is sickening. And today, the news from Harvey Weinstein that he was sentenced to 23 years in prison. He deserves more than that. This is just the beginning. So the only suit that these crooks will all be wearing is an orange onesie. The only car or vehicle they will be in is a prison transport bus. And they can speak to their shadows or their rats, because at least with Harvey Weinstein, he is in complete isolation. From what I'm reading, he is going to Rikers. So patriots and anons, brace yourself. We have waited a long, long time for this. It is because of you. You are now the news. You have all worked tirelessly to get the truth out, and some anons are so far ahead of the narrative, such as this person. He goes by grotesque, but he's at 963_Maxoom. He or she has sent so much information to me that it just blew my mind, and I will share that in a different broadcast unrelated to NESARA and GESARA, but what we are visually seeing now. Very, very eye-opening. I have to say that this account is way ahead of the time, as with many other accounts. There will be a part 3 and possibly part 4 of the NESARA GESARA podcast. In the meantime, we all have remained so hopeful for the last 3 years, and in my case for decades, since 9/11, 2001. We never knew this day would come. And this is what many thought was the best is yet to come, is the arrests, the indictments. We thought that was the best is yet to come, but I've asked on Twitter before, what if the best is yet to come is better than the biggest arrest? I'm going to share this clip with you, and I want to just wish you